categorization based on some kind of rules to determine this publication has more probability to convert with advertising versus the other, or you should be doing with this publication, you should be optimizing towards clicks, not towards conversions, and kind of trying to categorize and understand the item, and the product on the product level. I'm not sure if I'm clear, because this is something we're still figuring out.
You mean like providing this information to advertisers so they can act on it, or?
Yeah, on the seller before they do advertising. So the seller has all the publications in their account. We go and say, this publication, the publication A, has I forgot the word, has match with advertising. It would be a good idea to promote this ad, and kind of more than the others. And then some kind of logic to determine the behavior and the likelihood to convert with advertising, and with a different bidding strategy or something if we promote this. Because this is what we are willing to do. Today, just to give you context, we categorize, we call SADs, successful ads. All the items, they have historical data, they have minimum of conversions, minimal requirements that we want to add them as valuable items, because we know they will perform in our value proposition, because it's something that has organic relevance and all this stuff. This is the only categorization we have. So we have SADs and the others. But then you have a new item that is new. Then we have an item that is actually, we already know it's not going to perform well. Do they have some kind of categorization before doing ads, or trying to tag them to orient towards a specific advertising strategy? I mean.
Yeah, so not that I know, but it's well, a couple of things to keep in mind. Like, one, Amazon doesn't have like ACoS bidding and this like fully automated bidding strategies, right? It's all CPC. Now you can, and this is something that I was driving actually when I was at Amazon, was this like, you can adjust your bid up and down based on conversion probability. So it's kind of like similar to an ACoS target, but advertisers don't actually provide the ACoS target. So that you don't really have a choice between like, oh, you should bid like CPC versus ACoS or something. It's all CPC based.
Okay.
Now, I do think it's a good idea, like what you're doing with regards to identifying what are good products to advertise. I think we didn't do that when I was at Amazon. I don't know if they're doing it now, but we didn't do that. But I think that's definitely something it's a good idea to do.
Makes sense, because you can imagine the seller have 1,000 items, let's say.
Yeah, so figure out which ones perform. But I'm a little surprised though that you're saying, well, if it's a new product, probably it's not going to perform well. Because I would think as an advertiser, I do want to promote the new products, because the other products.
Of course. So that's why we're amplifying our strategies, because right now our value proposition, our model doesn't prioritize a new item. Actually, it's not we don't recommend. We just encourage them to promote new items, and we want to start. This is the project to start optimizing, creating bidding strategies as Google has. We'll have one focusing the same we have right now, focusing on conversions, sales, and then we will start testing more like open idea to, okay, I want to maximize towards clicks. If you this is a strategy recommended if you have a new item, or if you have, I don't know, you are in a seasonal that you want to get visibility faster, and you are willing to pay more for a click to go upper, and to, things like that. So we want to create new cases to tell them to help the user to also amplify their alternatives and use cases.
I mean, I would think about it maybe this way, that there's like different reasons to advertise. One is, you can make more money. Here's a product that is, not new. It's like I I think we will call it like an evergreen campaign. This is a campaign that you should be running all the time because it's gonna make you just gonna make you money to run the campaign. We're gonna drive like incremental revenue. The other one is I want to make sure that I have a new product. I want to launch a new product. So I want to make sure that I have a good launch. We can start off with like, you know, some click and sales velocity for a new product to drive awareness, penetration, whatever you want to call it. But it's sort of like a different strategy, right? Maybe there's two, but I think maybe those are the two main ones. Or maybe there's like seasonal promotion. That's a third one, maybe. And you can think about like how should advertisers set up their campaign to be successful in these three potentially more different.
Yeah. Can we go to the slide that Marco created? Because I will jump the topic, Nico, from pacing to bidding strategies, just because we are on this, if you don't mind. We will be talking about pacing model, but we have this one about the bidding strategies. So this is, sorry, Marco, as I interrupted. So Marco has a few questions for you about, I was asking you first regarding bidding strategy. We are amplifying, going further, not just focusing on sales. The first line is the strategy we have right now. Sales, the seller define the ACOS and the budget, and we want to achieve the ACOS target. This is our current strategy available, and everything, all the models, everything we have, focus on this. Then we want to add the possibility to give the user the chance, okay, I want visibility, or I want to generate more clicks and maximize towards clicks. And we'll be calculating the CPC. We are not there yet to let them to define the CPC, or we don't want to, because I think we have more conditions to calculate the best CPC. But we have a few questions on that. And this is the idea. And eventually we can add more, as Google has and Amazon has, a different bidding strategies. For now, we are opening and kind of creating this two versions. And that's why I was asking you if on the publications, or if Amazon has some kind of categorization, because we could already give the user the options. Okay, this bunch of items, I recommend you to go through this way, this strategy. The other one, I recommend you, and I don't have them to think about it or to decide manually, because I already know the best approach from advertising perspective.
I wonder if it's just what if I just create two different campaigns, right? Like if I have a campaign for existing products that are selling, I have a campaign for new products, and just have a much higher ACOS target for the one with new products, then you can still drive, you know, visibility and sales at the higher cost per sale. Maybe the ACOS target is 100%. Like when I was with Amazon, I talked to advertisers and said like, we're willing to pay more than 100% in ACOS.
This is exactly what they do right now. This is like a best practice around the, you know, social media and stuff. They say put the ACOS towards 500. I think 500%. So the maximum, it's not gonna cost you this, but you will not limit the tool towards. And this is how they do actually escalate with new products. This is like a hack they already discovered. So this is already happens. We know this is something possible, but here, this is what we are trying to do. We are trying to figure out if we should do the same calculation. How do we can bring this approach on our end internally on the supply side? Marco, I'm speaking on your behalf, but you can go ahead. And eventually we could simplify and make this calculation like we predefine 500% ACOS, because this is what they will be doing. We just want to simplify. And why we decided to take out the ACOS in the setup for new items or visibility, because this is the use case for new items, or eventually things they are not as said yet. Because the ACOS, we understand this metric is totally correlated with the promise that I will be focusing on sales, that I will be generating sales. So I get committed to this this target. And in this case, we don't want to get committed, even though we know we'll be generating sales, but we want to move the conversation towards the amount of clicks we are generating, right? And we don't want them to set up an ACOS and then create this distortion that I didn't get the ACOS they predefined, and get things confused.
Yeah.
So anyways, this is a little bit the approach. So on the campaign creation, probably we won't give them the option to predefine the ACOS, even though internally we could, Marco, eventually take a very high ACOS and follow the same logic we have right now. And yeah, so
why are you saying in the campaign creation you wouldn't allow them setting in like ACOS?
The flow, the creation, like when they define the bidding strategy, okay, I want visibility. Then yeah, I'm saying I will ask them what's the budget the daily budget you are willing to spend. We will be optimizing the clicks as much as possible within this budget. It means the maximum of clicks with this budget, and that's it. They won't set up the ACOS. They will be able to see it on the report after, of course, but they won't be able to define an ACOS target.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that sounds reasonable.
Like, we are testing. This is the first time we are doing something different and trying to get away from the promise of getting the conversion itself.
So I think there's another use case for that as well. If you have products that have a long conversion cycle, I mean, there might be products that take more than 30 days out of consideration before you purchase if it's a very expensive item. And you can potentially drive, consideration and future sales in that context as well.
Yeah, this is very interesting, and this is why I totally agree with you. And other cases, that's why we are trying to do this categorization internally, trying to tag and understand all these different behaviors on an item level, to kind of in the recommendations during the strategy, we pre-set up and predefine from the 5,000 items they have. These are the 100 we recommend for this campaign. We already create a campaign. You just click on accept, and there we go. This is kind of the idea. We want to guide them towards the solution, and don't want them to have too much manual effort to make decisions and to think about different opportunities, because this is kind of not the idea of how to take their time to do that. But this is one of the examples that we want to start categorizing. So we want to understand first the items, the categories we have, and then we keep amplifying the strategy according what they have or something. But the new items is kind of the obvious one and kind of the opposite of what we have right now. That's why we are starting with both ways, and then we create others. Marco, you have a few questions.
I have a question with the strategy visibility. How Caro say, the idea is according to the budget defined by the seller, get the most clicks. But here's come the question: we should get the most clicks or the best clicks. Best clicks is something like in better places, they're offer more expensive, or places with higher CTR also have higher CBR. How do you say about this?
Yes, I think it gets a little complicated when you have multiple conditions. I think the starting point would just be maximize clicks as a starting point. I mean, what's common in the industry sometimes is you have multiple conditions. You have okay, maximize click, but CPA needs to be, there's some maximum CPA as well as an additional condition. So you can think about adding something like that. But I think the starting point, I would just do the simplest possible option, just maximize total clicks. I mean, I guess that's what you're saying. D1 is maximizing total clicks. I mean, I can think about well, maximize total yeah, I don't know exactly how you would do it. Like, would you say like maximize clicks only from top of search, and then I don't want clicks anywhere else? I guess you could have something like that, but I don't know. It gets just like, the more complex you make it, I think the harder you make it for advertisers to buy it as well, right? What are they telling you that they want? Like, if they're just saying, hey, I'm happy, I just want to maximize the traffic to my product, like the visibility of my product in the form of clicks, I think that's certainly the best starting point.
Yeah, and about the calculation that on the left side that Marco brought here about how we'll be approaching this. So the sales strategy is the current model we have, so the ACoS, the CVR, the quality, the item on the item level. This is what we already know. Then because in the context they will be bidding and competing again in the same auction. This is the idea. So how do I make this balance, and how do I bring it has to be with the price, so the CPC has to be higher to compensate the quality, because a new item won't have the CVR. We won't be prioritizing this in the formula. So how do you see this? Would you maintain the same formula and simply put more budget to compensate this and try to get the competitive bid, or?
No, because you don't really care about the conversion rate anymore, right?
Yeah, that's why we are kind of thinking about these alternatives. How do you see it?
I think what you want to do is to set the CPC that maximizes the number of clicks that you can get with your current budget. You probably want to set the lowest possible CPC bid. So think about the CPC as the bid for the advertiser.
Yeah.
You want to set the lowest possible CPC bid that utilizes your full budget. That's going to give you the most clicks possible given the budget, right? So think about if you put a 10-cent bid, are you going to spend the whole budget? You have to try to predict what's going to happen. If I bid 10 cents per click, CPC at 10 cents, is it going to spend the whole budget? If yes, well, what if you put 5 cents? Is it still going to spend the whole budget, right? You have to find the right bid that will spend the full budget, but not more, not less, ideally.
Yeah, and in order to calculate or to define the CPC, where do we start from? Similar, the example, the version 1, similar items in sales strategy, like trying to understand what the competition is doing to be competitive enough with the CPC. Where do we start from? Because we don't have the ACoS, we don't have we are not prioritizing the conversion. We are simply trying to win the auction with a competitive bid. So this is the challenge for the visibility strategy.
So you don't do this on auction per auction models. You do it for the whole campaign, for the lifetime of the campaign. Like what's the right CPC bid? And so what I'm saying is it's a constant. You set it right you set the CPC for the lifetime. Ideally, it should be constant for the lifetime of the campaign, but maybe you have to adjust it in order to make sure that you spend the full budget, and you don't spend more and you don't spend less. So I wonder if it's similar to the PID controller that we talked about previously in the context of ACoS bids, where you have sort of like a throttle that will figure out the right way, like how much you have to bid up or down in order to hit the right ACoS. It's kind of similar to that, except now you want to figure out exactly what the CPC bid should be in order to spend the full budget and not more and not less.
Yeah, and kind of the trawler could help to,
to
predict. And also the other component you were saying about the CPC split, how much the second best price, the difference from the second best price. So we could be adding in this context as well, because it will help us to define the ideal or the optimum CPC. So what should be the components here to start testing? So this is where we are kind of lost, because when it doesn't come to conversions, we get lost simply because of that. And
yeah. I mean, so a key thing that you want to try to understand here is based on the CPC bid for the campaign, how much will you spend for whatever time period you care about? Like, if you have a commitment that you're going to spend the budget, that you're going to hit the budget every day, then you have to predict, okay, how much am I going to bid today in order to spend the full budget, but nothing more? So I do think you need to build a model that can predict that. Or I don't know if you can just look it up from like some historical data or how you're going to do it. But the key here is like, if I bid 10 cents CPC, my CPC bid is 10 cents, how much am I going to spend? Right?
Yep. I think it has a lot of, you're just bringing some interesting things to figure out. Marco, do you have, and this is exactly where we are right now, do you have any specific question about
I think you can do Carol is similar. Like, I can write this up as well, but it's like you start with a guess, right? This is my best guess for the right CPC, and then you can adjust using a PID controller.
Totally.
In order to be as close as possible to spend.
Yeah, and probably it's gonna take 1-2 weeks to the model kind of try to figure out the optimal and the.
Yeah, ideally it wouldn't take that long, especially if you have to hit the budget every day. I mean, I mentioned this in the context of bidding before, that I think it's better to have more leeway on a day-to-day basis and promise that you're going to hit average daily budget over a 1 month or 30-day period, because then you get more flexibility in how you
Something interesting. I don't know if I don't wanna. I think this is interesting, Marco, Avi, Lucas. I'm thinking about the pacing. Our pacing model is designed. We will be talking to the pacing in a few seconds. So the pacing is designed to deliver, to spend the budget during the best conversion period of time, right? Okay, so if I know right now 5 p.m. has a higher CVR, I want to concentrate the budget and spend on this, right? Correct. This is the If in the context of the visibility, we optimize the clicks the opposite. We avoid the CVR, the peaks of the pacing model, and we try to see the CTR, or because the time of the day that I don't have too much conversions, but I still have clicks, because I can optimize my inventory as well, because I can, in this case, I will be generating clicks, because this is what we want to click. It doesn't matter if it's the peak time of conversion or not. You know what I'm saying? Does it make sense to anyone?
Yes, but we was talking about clicks with profiles with rentabilidad. We was talking about clicks with profile rentabilidad.
Conversions.
Yes.
No, but this is something important. We should be optimizing towards clicks or the conversion. We cannot optimize, in my opinion, at this moment, trying to hit the both, because it's gonna we will end up in the same in the sales strategy. In this case, we want to deliver the largest amount of clicks as possible with the budget. We have higher competition, and the CPCs, they cost more during the peak hours because of the pacing model, because we deliver and we try to put everyone. We know that because we already know that during a specific time of the day, a specific hour, it's more valuable this clicks, and we want to generate clicks and try to spend the budget within this period, and we avoid the morning, and then we try to avoid the way we deliver the budget, our current pacing model. So if for the visibility strategy, we somehow try to do the opposite and try to generate clicks within the hours that the conversion is not as good, but we are not optimizing towards conversion. We are simply, we are delivering what we were asked to. Of course, the ACOS or the conversion won't be that good, but this is the idea, or something we can compensate to minimize the cost of click and deliver a larger amount of click. I don't know if this idea is too crazy, but
no. So if I understand correctly, you wanna provide clicks when clicks are cheaper, right? Because you want to maximize the clicks, you want to get more clicks when clicks are cheaper. I think that's what you're saying, essentially.
Trying to find the cheapest hour, not try to compete in the same
But you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything actively to do that. If you follow the approach of bidding the lowest possible bid that will utilize your full budget, it will happen automatically. Because like
our pacing model, let's go to our pacing model, because our pacing model is designed to deliver. This is what you will understand what I'm saying. So if you guys want to go ahead, but our pacing model delivers and control the budget in a hour basis in order to be more effective, to avoid exactly what I was saying, to avoid the opposite about what I was saying, to spend all the budget in the morning that generates a click. However, you won't have conversions. So it limits the spending. So I don't want to, eventually we can, and I say, I don't know, Lucas, if I'm too crazy, but we don't apply the pacing model the same way we do for the visibility strategy. And
you don't need a pacing model for the CPC strategy, right? If you say, I just want to maximize bid with my budget, and you set the bid that's to the lowest possible level that's going to spend the full budget, you don't need a pacing model. And I think in general, I think it's better not to have a pacing model, but just use bidding. I know we talked about that before, but you use bidding in a sense in order to spend the full budget rather than do like pacing throughout the day.
Yeah.
The conversion rate is part of the bid, so that will already adjust the bid that you place based on the conversion probability. Ideally, it will take into account the time of day as well, right? So if the conversion prediction model knows that conversions are higher between 10 and 12, then the bid will automatically be higher during that time. And if it knows that it's lower at 5 a.m., the bid will automatically be lower at 5 a.m., right?
In this case, the pacing model defines the budget, the budget availability. If I'm correct, guys, right? We don't change the bid because of the CVR curve. We just control the spending. Right?
The pacing model does that, but in parallel, our CVR model just take into account the hour of the day. So it works that way somehow.
Yeah. So that's correct. Thank you, Pilo. So what I'm saying is the objective of this model is to control the budget, the spending. You know, the way we spend, to avoid spending in the wrong or the lower probability during the time. I don't know how to speak English anymore. Anyways, sorry.
We have to review the curve of CTR for visibility.
Yeah.
We have to review you have the similar behavior to CVR or different.
No, so I wouldn't use a pacing model at all, not for ACOS or for CPC. You're going to create the maximum value for advertisers by reducing the bid to a level where you're spending the full budget. So it's let me just share this doc that I wrote as well. I think maybe you all have access already, it looks like. So
yep.
Rather than pacing through the day, I mean, as an advertiser, I don't care if conversion rate is lower at 5 a.m. than 10 a.m.
Yep.
My bid is going to be lower too, as long as I can achieve the ACOS target. I'd be happy to get the clicks at 5 a.m. As long as I'm not paying. As long as my ACOS is not higher during that time. What I care about.
So this is the idea. Two things. I think Nico just came back. Guys, please help me here. This is why we are challenging our pacing model. We know we don't have an optimal model. We just know that we made some iterations recently to adjust the way we deliver the budget we spend according to CVR. We had some issues before, we already fixed them. So we are trying to optimize. So the question, let me take a step back. Should we have this model? How do you see this? We should kind of have no pacing model at all and let things go. How do you see this? So assumption is that we should help the user to be smarter, to be smart when to spend, and then the auction will happen and all the other models will happen within this budget. But so does it make sense or not, and what are we missing, and what we are screwing in this context?
Yeah, so I'm not sure that I see the value that the pacing model is adding. I would take this approach that I described in this doc, where you have a budget throttle. And if a campaign is budget constrained, you set the budget throttle to somewhere between 0 and 1. At the level where it's just going to spend its budget, so you set it to the highest level possible that is not going to run out of budget, or rather, I would say like the lowest level possible that's going to spend the full budget by the end of the life cycle. So the budget throttle estimate is, I mean, it's just you have to predict, you have to be able to predict the total budget spend based on the bid. So if the bid is $1, how much of the budget is going to be spent? If it's going to run out of budget, it's going to spend more than the available budget, and you set the budget throttle to a lower number.
Like considering that during the day the bid changes, how do you calculate that? Is it like a average of the day?
I don't know. The bid changes because PCDR changes, or is that what you mean?
Yes, for example.
Yes, you have to take that into account.
So it'll be a version of our pacing model applied to the bid estimation, probably.
Well, the difference is that the budget throttle is a constant, or you want to. I mean, it's not constant. You want to keep it as constant as possible. You don't want it to like have a big fluctuation.
The problem is not, it's not about the fluctuation. Actually, we have it. We are just trying to get closer to the highest conversion, or to a better conversion, to spend the same click that I generate early in the morning. It doesn't have the same performance of the click that I generated 2 a.m. So I do want to balance this, and to help the.
Why do you want to balance it? Why do you need to balance that?
Sorry?
So why do you need to balance that?
Why do I need to balance that?
Yeah. So
the objective of the model is exactly to try to spend the budget, or to spend or to participate in the auctions when I have more probability to generate a conversion.
But I think as an advertiser, I don't care about that. I care about the ACoS. Like lower conversion probability is fine if my CPC is lower. So I don't see the benefit that I get as an advertiser from not participating in the auctions where CVR is lower, because CPC is going to be lower too. So if the ACoS is the same, I don't care, right? I'd rather participate in more auctions at a lower or equivalent ACoS rather than not participating in those auctions, even if CVR is lower.
Sorry, I got lost. Are we talking about the visibility strategy or the sales strategy we have currently in our?
No, we are talking about the pacing model now, Pilar, like.
But for what occasion? For the one that we have currently, or the future one for visibility?
I think it doesn't matter. I think what Lars is saying in the beginning, I just brought the subject because we do have the pacing model, and eventually, if we maintain it for the sales strategy, we could kill it to the click optimization, because it has no sense to limit the budget and to calculate the bid, taking this into consideration. And then Lars is challenging and saying, why do you need that in any case? Because you are limiting the budget, but then the CVR context you were mentioning is already calculated, and this, it will be regulated within the auction context. In the bid, will be determining the CPC price based on this conversion throughout the day. So we already have an input. This is what I got, Lars, correct? So we are already capturing this curve, the CVR curve throughout the day in the bid calculation estimation, because this is the point. If we were not capturing it, eventually we should have. Lucas, Nico, if I read this correct, because I do agree with Lars a lot. We had this pacing, we implemented this pacing model as a long time ago, correct? And then when we implemented, do you remember if we had the CVR contextualized and all the?
No, we haven't CVR contextualized, but in the last year we test turn off the balancer.
Yep.
Do you remember?
Yep. We tested, yeah, and it was interesting. We tested. It was very. Let me open the test, because this is very, very interesting. 1 second, Lars. This is very interesting what you were saying, because we got to this kind of conclusion or assumption that you were bringing, and then we turn it off. Okay, let's see it. We turn it off. Let me just recap in my mind what happened, the final outcomes, because I have so much. Let me see if I have some graphs to show you. We should have send you in advance the results.
You turn it off for everyone or just for a small set of advertisers?
For everyone.
For everyone in which country? I don't remember. Let me see. Do you remember?
I can't remember.
I think
MLM.
Mexico.
Mexico.
Yes, Mexico.
I mean, I think the important part is that you throttle the budget using as constant as possible factor. So advertisers will still spend throughout the day. If you just turn it off, if a lot of advertisers are budget constrained, you're going to increase the competition early in the day, and then you're going to decrease it at the end of the day, right? So advertisers that spend all the budget early in the day is going to get less value. You still want to make sure that they spend throughout the day, but you use this constant throttle rather than having a curve that you use. This way, you will maximize the value to advertisers without losing any revenue for Mercado Libre. And as advertisers see they get more value, they will invest more money in advertising over time.
Yeah, I think we should, Nico, my assumption, I'm trying to find the test, but anyways, I think my assumption, personal assumption, is that we have evolved the CVR models in parallel, and we should be revisiting it or trying to test again based on this to see if it's enough to capture this trend and to regulate the spend according to that, or how can we? So I think this is the answer for what's next. What do we do with the pacing model? So I think right now we are super focused on that, but we should take a step forward in order to test again, considering in parallel all the stuff we are doing, or if we take the approach brought by Lars about the budget trot and how to bring this into the bid level, somehow keep trying to limit the budget spend, but in every auction, in every bid estimation. I think, I don't know, I'm just trying to bring an approach. I think it's what the budget I never know how to speak this word, but budget throttle tries to do is exactly this: how to push the best budget according to the context, the bid context, and within it we should be calculating all these constraints. Is that correct, right? If I don't know, if I already spend 80% of the budget and it's half of the day, we should add some kind of limit to control it. So this is what the budget throttle is trying to balance in the formula to avoid that. If I have a lot of budget and it's 6 p.m., I can be more aggressive and I can, be more flexible. Is that correct, Lars? This or
No, not
No.
exactly. I would say
no? Okay.
you want it to be, you want the budget throttle to be constant throughout the day to the extent that you can. You want to keep it as constant as possible. The way to maximize the value that you get as an advertiser from a limited budget is to bid as low as possible from you essentially, like if you look at the product of budget throttle and target ACoS, you can see that you're going to reduce your target ACoS until you're no longer budget constrained. So you will spend your full budget at a lower target than what you initially set, right? Now, if there's less competition at some part of the day and more competition at a different part of the day, automatically you're going to spend more of your budget when there's less competition. If all advertisers are using this approach, you're going to equalize competition through the day because everybody's going to be spreading their budget at using the same method, where essentially the target ACoS is lowered on the back end using the budget throttle in order to hit a lower ACoS that still spends your full budget.
Yeah.
And now you get value because your ACoS is lower, and as an advertiser, you'll be happy you spent your full budget and you spent, your ACoS is lower. Now it's important that you let advertisers know that they're budget constrained, and that's why their performance is lower than the ACoS target, right? It's a better performance than what they were targeting. And you tell advertisers, well, if you add more budget, then you'll get more conversions, and then we'll hit the ACoS target as well. Now, if you're happy with the lower ACoS and the current number of conversions, you can keep things as they are, but you can get more conversion volume if you increase your budget.
Totally. What I'm thinking is, Nico and Lucas and the team, our pacing model is a question that I don't have the answer. Our pacing model, we are talking about the CVR curve, right? The CVR. So we are trying, but the CVR is exactly the time, the hour, the conversion, the sale is happening, or the click, because we have a time frame within the click and the purchase itself. So it's exactly the time the purchase is happening, or the click that will generate the conversions. So this is interesting. If it's based on the value conversions, the purchase itself, we have some, what Lars is saying makes even more sense, because we are trying to optimize to deliver, to win the bid in the hour. The conversion is happening, but not one thing is not that related, because our window, 70% of the conversions happens within 1 day, and then 70%, but then we have, the time frame, and probably it's not on the same hour, the purchase and the click. I don't know. I don't have the granular number, but we should be analyzing that as well to understand if the click, 50% of the clicks, the purchase happens within the same hour of the click. This is interesting, but I don't think it's that, close. We should be investigating it anyways. You know what I'm saying? So we are thinking about trying to generate the click exactly on the same hour of on the same moment of the purchase, when it's not that correlated.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a good question.
Interesting, isn't it? I don't know if we have spoken about it or if I'm reading it correctly, but I think we should be taking this into consideration to be more flexible and to evaluate the value of pacing.
Okay.
I had done a analysis once to see how many minutes it took to a conversion, and it was a big percentage. I'm going to try to find the analysis, but it was like you could convert in the first few minutes, like 15 minutes, or days after. It was like it didn't change in the same day. Like there wasn't a curve in the same day. It was like a really large amount of conversions that ended up very near the click. And if they didn't, they just went further in other days. They converted days after. That was more or less the conclusion.
Yeah. So Lars, if we are getting correct, because we don't have too much time regarding the pacing model, you don't see too much value on this based on your experience on the pacing itself.
I think it's better not to have a pacing model and just use a budget throttle in order to lower the bid. As I don't know if this is clear how I explain it. I try to explain it concisely, but I can, spend some time elaborating.
Yeah, go ahead, just to make sure we are getting this correct, because this is very, very important. I think the idea, this is what I want to understand. You were saying we could capture this, or we could replace what we are willing to do with the pacing model if we move towards the budget throttle within the bid calculation. And go ahead, please, just deep dive on this if we are all getting, so we are all on the same page.
Yeah, I mean,
Sorry,
yeah. Oh.
Sorry, one question. Do we have to take care about the pacing, or distribute the pacing along the day? Because if we consume all the budget in the first part of the day, then the rest of the day, maybe we will have bad ads, or the audience don't match with the audience. Do you understand?
Yeah, but so if you use a budget throttle like this will automatically also spread the spend throughout the day. Even if you don't have this explicit pacing functions, you want to set the budget throttle to the lowest possible value you can set it that will still consume the full budget, right? Okay. So you're going to reduce the bid. You're going to basically essentially reduce the target ACoS for the advertiser on the back end to the lowest level that you can, that will still spend the full budget from the advertiser. Which means that, since you're reducing the bid, you're going to spend less. You're going to have less spend velocity, right? You're going to spend less money per hour than you would if you didn't reduce the bid. Which also means like the lowest possible value that still results in the campaign spending the full budget means it's gonna just spend the full budget at the end of the day, right? Because if it was spending faster, you would set that lower value that will spend slower. And if it's still spending too fast, you will set a lower value that will reduce the spend velocity as well until it's just spent at the end of the day. Does that make sense, or I don't know if I'm explaining it clearly?
Yes. Yeah, it does. Makes sense.
No, I think this is the first time we are seeing a different way to do the same thing. At the end of the day, both have the same objective. And if I get this right, the approach you are bringing to a lot of things that we are doing is to simplify and to bring into the bid all these estimatives and try to balance. And I think we should deep dive on this, and we should take into consideration a lot of things why we see the pacing model, value of the pacing model, and how we could test. I think
the objective is similar, but it's slightly different in the sense that this approach, the philosophy behind this approach is to maximize the value to the advertiser given within the constraint of the budget. So it's a little bit different. I don't think the pacing model actually maximizes value to the advertiser. It just spreads the spend throughout the day, but or maybe that's the intent. But by switching to this approach, you will deliver more value to advertisers than what you are with the pacing model.
Interesting. And I understand, Evie, what you were trying to say, that we also want to guarantee our inventory to the buyer to be, spread. But something that I remember talking to Leo about it, we should focus. Pacing is on the behalf of the advertiser. In this case, it should be helping. It should be, the grevialista of the advertiser, and not trying to do both things at the same time. Even though help us somehow, this is another problem that we should be taking. Otherwise, we won't be maximizing the model towards, one thing or the other. But anyways, this is something internally we could definitely discuss. I understand your point of view, but this is one of the decisions that we should start doing. Okay, this is on behalf of the advertiser and how we are maximizing the approach to the advertiser. And based on what Lars is saying, we could take another approach to fully get into a better result. But anyways, I think this is very, very interesting. Anybody has any question? We have we have until 6, right? Oh, we have more time. I thought we have until 30. But you guys are probably you were thinking too much about the pacing because we have been working on this and testing. Any other comment, or is it clear the way that Lars explained? Or
I mean, we can also think about how, if there's no other questions, we can think about how this will translate to max click world with the new. Let me just go copy some of this stuff. So this is we can, if we think about we have a bid that is it's essentially just a CPC, right? So it's potentially like you said, Carol. I think somebody mentioned earlier was you can still also maybe consider the potential option discount here.
sorry, where are you?
Well, sorry, it's not scrolling. It looks like I'm at the bottom. Somebody else is presenting, right? Oh, Carol,
I think
I was just.
okay. Oh, there you go. Okay.
Maybe if you think about, so you don't. Just thinking about how to explain this best, but maybe to make it like as similar as possible, you can think of CPC as being the initial guess for the best CPC to.
When you left, Nico, we were talking about the bidding strategies, and we asked Lars, how do we should calculate the bid in the case of the CPC optimization or the click optimization, that we don't care about, or we shouldn't care about the ACOS or the conversion rates, but we should be competitive enough to win the bid because the auction, of course, is the same. And then we jump into the pacing model, because I was saying we shouldn't apply the pacing model to the CPC strategy because it doesn't make sense. We don't have to look to the conversions. And then we are jumping into both topics, just to give you the context because you left.
Okay, thanks, Carol.
Yeah. So one thing led us to the other. Yeah, and then we were talking about we should be estimating initially the best or the minimum CPC, and this will be the formula where the CPC, this budget trawler applied, and the account discount, auction discount that we saw the other day, to understand how much the second the competitors are paying, and try to optimize the CPC based on that, to learn from the auction, kind of the projected learning in the past auctions. Okay, controller to ensure that the full budget is spent, just the end of the day should be okay.
I mean, you can just simplify it to this. I think maybe this part is really, I think, like, once you have all the other things down, you can think about this, but this is, I think, that's important in the near term. So here you can think about, like, once you create a campaign, you can guess what is the best CPC, and then you can adjust using the budget throttle in order to make sure that the budget is spent, but you don't spend more than the budget. You just basically adjust it until you run out of the budget at the end of the day, right? Does that make sense?
To me, yes. I don't know if the rest they are convinced.
I mean, the goal is to set the lowest possible CPC that will spend the budget fully. That's how you maximize the clicks.
Yep. Does it help you, Marco, with the
Yes,
kind of,
makes sense.
because we need to implement this for the new bidding strategies.
Would you calculate the throttle based on past auctions, for example?
No, so I would calculate the initial CPC based on historical data. I mean, you don't have to have these two steps. Maybe you just you can also think of this just as like a CPC that can flow through the day. But I mean, I think just logically, conceptually, it probably makes sense to think about, like, okay, you estimate CPC at the beginning of the campaign's lifetime, and then you adjust it using the throttle. Maybe every day you recalculate CPC and you use the throttle to adjust throughout the day. I don't know how you want to think about it.
That question was, how do you calculate it?
So you have to have some sort of model, right? Based on historical data of how much budget is spent based on maybe average CPC or something like that.
So then, yes, it would be on historical data, and based on that, you can iterate.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, you can start off with the best guess, but it doesn't have to be perfect, and you use the budget throttle in order to adjust to ensure that you hit the budget at the end of the day. But I mean, if you're perfectly able to estimate the perfect CPC, then budget throttle would always be 1, right? Ideally, you want it to be probably as close as 1.0 throughout the day and minimize the variance in budgets, because that's how you can most efficiently spend the advertiser's budget. But in reality, there's going to be some fluctuation.
And I'm guessing that based on the results of the day, next day, maybe you can recalculate the CPC, and then your throttle would be closer to 1, and so on.
Yeah.
I just realized we didn't have the break. Nobody asked, which is very interesting. I don't know you guys, but I need 5 minutes.
Let's take.
And then we go to the wrap up. Okay. Hola.
Buenas.
Bueno, matamos spacing entonces. No, just kidding. No, me gusta tener atrás. Pensar, ¿no? Nos hace pensar. Nos hace pensar. I was asking them if we are ready to kill the pacing model.
Yeah, you just need something to replace it with first. So
Cool.
All in this room hate pacing model, hates balancer.
Actually, we are not attached to it, but we also don't know how to live without it. So this is the situation. So Lars is just kind of pushing us to the edge.
yeah, I mean, I think, you know, having some sort of PID controller behind the budget throttle, I think that's probably the way to go. I mean, similarly for the max click approach, you can think of it also as a two-stage thing where you first estimate initially what the number should be, and then you have a controller that kind of makes sure that you hit the full budget at the end of the day, but not before. So, I mean, you could also decompose. Sorry, I don't control the screen, but maybe I can present here. Yeah. It's the same doc, but you could think of the budget throttle here as well, as being similarly like really two components. One is the best guess at the beginning of the day, and the other one is a PID controller that ideally would be around 1.0 somewhere. But I mean, it depends how you think about it. You could also just have one component that encapsulates both of those functions. I hope it makes sense. Let me know if it doesn't make sense, if it's not clear enough. Like, I know it's like still a lot of details on how do you actually implement it, but I think thinking of it as a PID controller, like a best guess, and then something that fluctuates around 1.0 could be a good approach.
I think makes a lot of sense to rethink it all. And sometimes in our day-to-day, in our problem, we are limited, or we have the bias to keep doing or improving what we are doing and how we are doing. And sometimes we just need to take a step back and think why we are doing it. And as you were proposing, test another approach. So I think this is very interesting in this case because of it. I want to take, so we have 20 minutes left. I just want to see if anybody has any other question or want to ask something again. It's not a problem at all, based on the documents that Lars share with us, or something that is not clear. If you want to deep dive again or on something, this is the moment. If not, I always ask and then I answer that no, and then I don't give people time to answer. I always do it. So I'll give you guys time to answer or to raise their hands. There we go. Okay. Okay, cool. So let me just briefly recap a few things. Let me share my screen just to recap. First of all, thank you, Lars, for your time. It was very, very interesting. All the discussions, all the learnings, and all the time we have passed together. I don't think we didn't have too much time to go through retrieval. I think we covered some